Hello and welcome back once again to Snowbound Blood. And since I enjoyed the last route so much, we're going to keep repeatedly playing Mashiri's route until I get bored of it. I'm just kidding. We're moving on to Volume 6 today, and even though this video will be coming out on Tuesday the 16th, today I'm recording it on Monday the 15th. I've got another friend who likes Vastera and Snowbound Blood, and their favourite characters are in Volume 6, and also today happens to be their birthday, so happy birthday to Colonel Snivy. So let's move on to Volume 6. Here we go. Your name is Secily Yapara, and as of right now, those two 6-letter words are the only things in your life that feel real. What felt like purpose and drive has given way to caution and suspicion. No longer are these thoughts resigned solely to those you pursue, and instead those you believed you could trust have become shrouded in deceit. What felt like a sliver of progress has brought you back to where you began, a single inky drop in an ocean of obsidian. And you may notice that I'm in a better mood right now because for the past few days, like the first routes of the day that I've done, I did pretty much as soon as I woke up. I hadn't had anything to eat. So now that I'm in a better mood, I've given myself some time, I've eaten some pizza, I'm in a much better mood now, so. But you have conquered greater depths than this. You've weathered storms more turbulent and faced waves far taller. You're going to grit your teeth and face the unknown head-on. Head-on? Apply directly to the forehead. Head-on? Apply directly to the forehead. And you're going to do it your way. That means getting down and dirty with some deep diving detectiving. You double checked the records around the time of the case and looked into the leads you'd been given. And although it has put you into danger more than once, following the leads of that mysterious voice has given you more direction than corporate resources could provide. 2 more trolls to talk to. 2 more pockets of knowledge to make clear. Ooh. Rauru Dursal or Masked Hermit. Oh, I like the Masked Hermit, but since we are taking these things in order, we're going to do Rauru or Rauro. Roro. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but I don't care. It's rare for you to feel quite this lost. Not necessarily with physical direction. You can make your way around Stronghold 21 easily enough, but after everything you have now discovered, it's harder to pull yourself through this ordeal. There's an emotional lilt, a feeling of betrayal. But to hell with them then. You're tasked with getting results, and that's something you pride yourself on. If not for corporate, then for people like Orica, like Okius, who are doing what they can to help you in this fractured world. But to get results, you need more direction than a street corner. Most of your leads so far have followed either corporate directives or chasing up information from other suspects. And while things didn't exactly go as you'd planned with Bitcon, trying something different at least provided you with something new. Eventually. Was it worth it? You leave that up to your mental jury to decide. Let me just check everything's fine, yeah. Nevertheless, you're feeling better about things this time. Expanding the scope of the investigation slightly, you looked into large-scale events in the fort twice leading up to the filter being stolen. One event jumped out at you, Corporate's Awards for All Night. In particular, the event was catered for by one Rauro Dursal. It is with him that you hope your next break in this case lies. I don't know how. Roro. Big lad. Known far and wide as the curator of culinary creations, Roro Dursal is often credited as the man single-handedly responsible for the revival of the culinary arts. While often employed for upscale events that require a large amount of meals, it appears that one of his great passions is in teaching others the craft. His influence in the space is all-encompassing, and those who do work in the kitchens swear by Rorian steel for their knives and blades. From personal accounts of those who have worked under him, although he can be tough and strict, Roro inspires those around him to give their all. You're personally aware that Roro was in charge of food preparation for the AFA night. There's every chance the perceptive chef may provide a connection or two for you to follow up with. When not cooking during the day, Roro is usually at his own personal culinary school, where he teaches trolls simple meals that they can prepare at home. Oh, that's nice of him. While digging up information, you noted that the level of class can range from outdoors hunting expeditions and survival preparation to high-class meals free of meats altogether. It's here you've come to today in the hopes of catching him at the end of his lesson. Cooking class! God, it reminds me of cooking class back in school. We had to do, it was a part of D&T, Design and Technology, and we had to make simple things like flapjacks, curry, things like that. You try to subtly open the door, but the bell tolls for thee. A small ringing chime hung above the door marks your entrance and relays your presence to those inside. Thankfully, it seems as though the class is close to finishing, right on schedule, and most of the budding chefs quickly turn back to tidying up their equipment. You watch as the cleaning gel pours viscously out of the taps before being applied to all manner of knives and ladles, pots and pans, essentially everything in the kitchen sink. You sidle across to stand at the back, making a motion to press down your coat in a terrifically nonchalant way. You're the picture of precision as always. As you scan the room, it becomes quite clear to you that each sink space is holding two cooking enthusiasts. The sense of delicious creation slightly floats towards you. Many spices mix in your mind, but one comes through clear: honey. You feel your heart grab an extra beat or two. Oh, it's because Alina was a maker of honey, I think. She would have loved to do something like this. Oh, sad. People begin to flow out the door behind you, bell chiming each departure. Each pair carries a delicious-looking honey spice cake with them. Oh, that sounds nice. I'll have to make that. Your sweeping scan, cut short by those sweet smells, continues its path along the scene to abruptly stop at a rather familiar pair of budding cooks. Oh no. You really didn't want to talk to this guy again unless absolutely necessary, except he's already coming your way, and it's clear both he and his cooking partner have spotted you. There's no backing out of this now. Bacon! So we meet again! How lovely it is to see you, Secily. You don't feel like you share the same enthusiasm, but you suppose when a move is made, one must respond in turn. I must say, this is quite the surprise. I didn't think you ever left that dome. Secily, please. I already told you I have a number of non-currency related hobbies. One of which is making an absolutely delicious Woolby stew. Ooh, lamb stew. You almost take a step backwards as Bitgon begins to visibly blush. You're not usually one to meddle in people's personal affairs, much less this particular troll's. It certainly helps you paint a more complete picture of the pair, much as it confuses you. Yeah, Bacon and Indaria mate sprits. I didn't know this until I checked the wiki. Anyway, we must be off, Secily. Loops don't pop out of trees, you know. Speaking of which, I've been thinking of a couple more currencies. What do you think of blade bits? No? How about currency? I'm sure they'll be great successes as always, my little rat. Fucking hell. Well, send this to your crush with no concept, my little rat. You can see Indari playfully nudge Bitcon at that remark. He waves back at you and the two depart. You're not exactly sure what you feel at the moment, but thankfully with the place now empty, you don't have to dwell on it for too long. You approach the front of the cooking class and perform the tried and tested throat clear to the chef in charge. Ah! Maybe that was too much. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. I probably fucking woke up my mother. It takes a moment for the chef's hair to deflate and his pupils to return to normal. His hand is clearly tensed on the knife so quickly swung away. God, I've probably disturbed the dogs now. God. If you hadn't taken a short step back, it could have clipped your collar. You give him a chance to catch his breath. It's alright, I do apologise, but class is finished for the day. I'm not here for the class, Mr. Dursol. Secily Yapara, corporate regulator. My laptop apparently needs to update, of course it does. I was wondering if you remember anything about that recent awards for all event put on by corporate. Anything that might have been out of the ordinary. From the records, I'm aware you were catering that night. The chef returns to slowly cleaning his own knife, cloth partially coated in that same gel fluid. You note his averted gaze, keenly focused on the motions up and down the well-maintained blade. It feels familiar, the adept care one shows to one's tools, be they sword or cleaver. Answering unnecessary questions really doesn't rate high on my list of most enjoyable activities, Regulator Yapara. If that's all you've come here for, I really would like to head home. I'd prefer not to keep Loren waiting. He makes a move forward as if to sidestep you, but you quickly match his steps. You exhale a sigh, prepared to up the ante and advance yet another piece forward on the board. This is no trivial catch-up over boiled monster Roru. God. Corporate has had a vital relic stolen, and I believe this party was within close enough proximity that it might hold some clues to the crime. The burglary, as it were. Roru raises an eyebrow in response to that. Murder burglary? I'm trying it out. Wordology notwithstanding, my point of contention was not aimed at its relevance to you. My confusion is why you would need to ask me about it in the first place. You were there! Oh. That's right, you were there. Recall the party. Oh, is this where we talk to Yeshin or something? Every sweep, to help boost the productivity of corporate, Sestro thinks up an individual award for each member of the company. These are presented at the prestigious Awards for All Gala evening, an event you are unfortunately obliged to attend. Your wall of trophies from various AFA nights is almost filled, and you feel like tonight's award for exceptional regulator in the field of detectiveship will squeeze its capacity to full. Well, you sometimes joke that it means you'll have to retire soon, but really you could just use a different wall. But it's hard for you to keep focus. You stand wedged against the far corner of the room, picking up the odd scrap of conversation in between beats of the hot jazz. You're glad for the moment that the band at this corporation shindig isn't singing. You can't focus when there's singing. I just don't think the genre is lucrative enough to make a whole series. So I told him, get this, we don't manufacture enough plastics in 10 sweeps for that to be worth it. And I just worry about the integrity of the route data. How frightfully morose, Ceci. Ooh! Oh shit. Here's Yeshin. Oh, Yeshin's slinked up to you. So much for focusing. Late, as always, to this party where she's serving as your +1. A decision you'd regret if not for the cut of the cocktail dress she's wearing. Man, Cecily titties. She throws a hand across your back and leans in, making a show of conspiratorially surveying the attendees at the party, all dressed to the nines. She scoffs and then whispers in your ear. Methinks it's a little too easy to find you at these gatherings, my good bitch. Just looketh in the corners for the sullenest one, lol. Her frown is clearly exaggerated. You roll your eyes but follow as she leads you to the dance floor. You try to pick up a few more snippets of that conversation about the route data, but... Hey, dancing milfs! That's what the file of that is apparently called in the data. The way she walks makes a thumping upright bass line out of your heart, like a savannah beast, loping, prideful, showy. She's all show, this woman, and you've been buying front row tickets like the complete sucker you are for 7 sweeps now. You waltz with her, and the moment's almost beautiful until she opens her gaudily lipsticked mouth to talk. That's thy problem, girl. Thou art always crashing parties and drug dens, bandit hideouts. You're closer to fun more often than anyone else on this blasted planet. And yet thou art never having any of the fun for yourself. You give her a spin and tell her you were having significantly more fun until a trollop accosted you for a dance. Do not try to embarrass me in front of the co-workers, you say dryly as you continue to step to the beat. Oh, don't pretend you don't like it having a bit of ye old arm candy to show off to the suits. And anyway, a dance is the least thou owe me for always bailing out when your first choice of date declines. You dip her dramatically. She rather catastrophically misses the threat in it, instead continuing her ill-advised conversational course. Because no matter how I act, it doth be less embarrassing than showing up to a gala with your little pale whore. Oh! Don't fucking talk about machinery like that! Oop. The oop is from you dropping her straight from the dip back first onto the dance floor. The chatter around the room stops. Whoops. You take long strides off the floor and past the throng staring at you. All the while, Yeshin's cracking up laughing on the ground. You try not to notice that your face burns. You swing open the double doors to the balcony where a couple trolls are smoking in the cold night air. They see how pissed you are and put out their sticks, charred sugar smell following their quick retreat inside. You stew for a few minutes, then you hear a sing-songy voice tauntingly behind you. See, now you're having fun. I knoweth you need a fight. Like an animal she pounces on you, hand at your throat, and you kiss greedily in the moon's light. You didn't get any further useful information from that party. Oh, damn, bitch. What? We all have our vices. Oh, this investigation keeps bringing up recollections you wish you could forget. Nevertheless, you've been standing here for a good few words and haven't really given Roru an appropriate response. He seems to have returned to wiping down his knife in the absence of a better option, while you delved into your subconscious for a moment. You're right. I mean, I was there, but for lack of a better word, I was somewhat preoccupied. You see Roru glance momentarily at the clock on the wall before he lets out an exhausted sigh. If we keep this quick, I suppose I could help sharpen your memories. I can at least attend to the end of night tasks if you have another moment like that. Where should we start then? You're pretty sure there's 3 easy talking points to cover. The question is, which to indulge first? The evening schedule. Something that could help your recollection would be the actual rundown of the night's events. You were swept out and away from the festivities for a while. Damn! Cecily had some action. There are parts of the nights I can remember, but I'd appreciate a reminder of the full events programme. All things considered, it was a standard 4-course gala event. We provided light refreshments at the start of the evening upon arrival, mostly small bite-sized appetizers. After an introduction from Sestro and Hamifi, we served entree meals, mixed ground plant soup with light grain loaf, if I recall. That much is familiar to you. For most of this part of the night you were at your table, waiting, staring idly at the seat beside you for that loathsome +1 to arrive, shifting your food around and keeping a careful ear open. Most conversations were trivial in nature about current corporate happenings and goings-on. You quickly rifle through those thoughts but dismiss them as any culpable leads. After entrees were the first series of major awards for the night. I was definitely thankful to be in that first award bracket, not least of all for how the rest of the evening transpired. Damn! We're keeping on getting told that they... Damn, Cecily and Yeshin, you know. Rory seems to continue along his meal plan unfazed by your personal musing, glancing away from your face for a moment. He doesn't want to hear about it. He clears his throat, you suppose as a small token of acknowledgement to your statement. Why are my dogs always barking? The first segment of awards closed with a live performance by Ramona Raquel and her merry big band. You remember something from a few volumes ago that lodged itself in your subconscious during a tar drink haze. It bubbles to the surface of your mind like the sprinklings of ticket stubs, bringing with it the unfortunate recollection of a certain picture's text. I can't speak. You mentally pop that particular thought for the moment. Ramona Raquel, if I recall correctly, has also personally lost something in recent vices, a necklace of some description. There's maybe a chance there's a connection there. Rory raises an eyebrow before slowly shaking his head. That case was closed rather quickly, Regulator. One of the band members had forgotten they placed it in their case for safekeeping. Drat, you feel a pang of disappointment having been denied a tantalisingly simpler side case. On long investigations like these, you could really miss the feeling of closure. There's an itch under your skin you get down to pursuing adversaries. Finding tangible clues that lead you from one location to the next, providing evidence to systems of law and order, even the rush of exclaiming your objections and refutations. You miss it all. Casework is important, you know this more than anyone, but these legs were made for regulating. Right. Please, though, continue. The mains were next, I believe. That's correct, yes. We always take the most pride in our main courses. I feel that this moment of the culinary proceedings matter more than any other. You get to make a statement to this point of the night, and for me I believe the statement should be as personal to the guest as possible. I need a drink. But I've only got like 1/10 of a bottle of pop left, then I'll have to fucking start drinking water. A personal cuisine statement? Come to think of it, you do recall looking around and seeing a wide diversity of meals on offer at the table you were seated at for the first half of the evening. We try to accommodate for all our guests. Corporate were able to survey some extra information for us for that evening so we could truly take our ideas and help them bloom. Roru seems to have a real sparkle in his eyes. The way his face is illuminating with each sentence's increasing passion really makes it easy to see the dedication he has to his craft. Oh, same really, I like cooking. I really do. I only cook really simple things for now. I can cook tuna pasta bake, spaghetti bolognese, chicken alfredo. I've made bread and butter pudding a couple of times recently. It's a bit too bland for me, but my grandma really likes it. And also recently I made that triple-decker brownie thing with the Oreos and the cookie dough. And yeah, I'm sidetracking. You think back to the warm smells of the evening, the way the food tasted and even the way it felt to eat. It was clear that everything he supplied to corporate, thorough as you usually are, was brought back to you twelvefold with a culinary creation that felt matched to you on an individual level. If I may be so bold, Roru, that night I experienced a truly remarkable dish. Your kind attention to my personal palate did not go unnoticed. That's often a length you don't see many in the food industry striving for. There is a moment where you see a tinge of blush mixed in with the very humble pride Roru Dursol exudes. He finds himself having to clear his throat for a very different reason this time. Thank you, Regulator, that really does mean a great deal to me. Anyway, the mains were part of a larger intermission. Guests were given an opportunity to mingle. The moment when the tiger pounced. The moment when you two became lost in your own world. Jeez! Jeez, man! I mean, I appreciate the lesbian... Cecily's really thinking a lot about it. After a period of time, Sestro returns to the stage for the second set of awards. We followed with a serving of multi-stage sugar cake in all the colours of the hemo spectrum as the final dessert, paired with a series of warm cocoa-based drinks, of course. Oh, cake and hot cocoa. Hamifi gave what I was led to believe was a traditionally brief speech, a final performance, and the night was closed. Roru gives a brief sigh, exhausted. You take a moment to try and push away the fog of red and blue from your mind to grasp onto something from the end of that evening, but it seems you can do little to shake it. Thank you for that, Roru. If I may ask a follow-up question then, you've detailed a certainly tight schedule and plan. Did anything seem out of place on the night? Everything not run smoothly? Roru seems to think for a moment, a scowl slowly forming on his face. Sometimes there are certain people in the team I pick who I think it wise to test my limits. There are always those who think the kitchen is a place of jokes and japes. Jeez. He slams his knife down into the cutting board, and for the first time you can notice a few additional stab markings in the wood from previous altercations, where the wood has clearly been split. But I will never allow it. Otherwise, things seem to run smoothly. I can't speak for the awards themselves, obviously. That's some quick composure. You think you've gleaned pretty much all you can from this line of interrogation. Kitchen room conversation. If there's one thing you know is true of a big event like this, it's the level of conversation on offer. While you managed to catch only snippets of conversations through the headache of auditory overload, there were many guests in attendance and even more ensuring the night ran smoothly. Including, of course, Roru. As head chef for the night, I would assume that you would hear many things, both from your staff and around the kitchens, especially when people might not think anyone is listening. Do you recall overhearing anything that might be important to divulge from the night? It seems that the chef is more interested in the gleam of lights his knife makes as he twists it in his hands. In terms of my own crew, I try to run a tight ship. No nonsense conversation. We prepare the ingredients, we make the meals, we serve them. And you're right, as head chef it is my role to oversee everything that occurs around our kitchen space. Both inside and out, I assume. You can see him grip the handle a little tighter as he continues to avoid your gaze. Yes, that's correct. This feels like pulling teeth, and you'd rather stay away from morgues after your experience with Oculus. You figure now is the time to bring your boot down hard. And if this is the case, Roru, did you or did you not hear something that night? That's quite enough! His knife lodges in the board beneath him. The silence that follows could be cut by the very same blade. It hangs in the air like a particularly thick, viscous sauce. Damn, why are they so thin all of a sudden? His hair seems to deflate again after a moment, and with a soft tug or two he removes the knife from its wooden scar. It is possible I overheard a conversation that night. I know I didn't bring it up at the time. I'm not always particularly fond of these sorts of interactions. For the same reason I tend to keep my ears open, I also try to avoid loud yelling figures of authority. You can never know what someone else is thinking. Mood. What they say behind closed doors. It's been a while since you were trained for this kind of work. Through your basics, you learnt all matter of blooded traits to keep an eye out for. Strong survival abilities, purple-blooded psyops. But the fixations of the Verdant case are much less documented. I always say cast, I mean cased. Greenbloods will often focus on an individual personality trait, be it striving for perfection, obsession with purity, a materialistic hunger, or perhaps a convergence on one's self-loathing. In this case, it seems you're dealing with a deeply rooted paranoia. Mood. You've never been one to care much about what others think of you beyond your employers, and even they are now dubiously placed on that list. But one thing you know for certain is that isolating Roru now would bring you no closer to finding the truth behind this case. That at least keeps you moving in the face of terrible headaches, exploding traps, and far too many offers of tea. I understand that it can be hard to know who to trust. Please forgive my outburst, I'm sure you can understand the sort of pressure I'm under. There's a saying in my line of work, if you cannot handle the heat you'll never boil, so here's my whistling kettle tune regulator. There was a conversation overheard about root data being sold to someone present at the party. I could only catch the tail end of it, but it seemed to refer to a corporate organised transfer operation. One of the brief snippets you can recall from that night tugs at the front of your mind. Someone was discussing the integrity of root data. It's a tentative link, but it doesn't take a gigantic leap to see that this might tie into the knowledge of the tundra-traversing truckload of goods, including the filter. Do you recall anything about the people discussing this? Anything at all? Unfortunately, no. As I went to leave some entree dishes, I looked around, but the crowd was already in full mingle mode, and I was not particularly fond of traversing so many individuals. The corner and I were becoming quite acquainted. Yes, I see what I can find out then. You have my thanks. It's not a lot, you suppose, but barring an uninvited guest, you may have a particularly robust suspects list once more. And there's every chance other members of corporate present could have also heard this discussion. All the more reason to check out some of the people you and Mashiri were discussing. If something transpired at this awards night, it potentially places anyone present as a suspect, or they may simply have witnessed other events that neither Roru nor yourself could recall. Any one of them could be a follow-up lead. This event is usually one of the biggest of the sweep. If I recall, there were many prominent members of corporates as well as celebrities and big names too. The guest list I received was initially daunting. Certainly I'm no stranger to upscale dining, but this was a lot of fucking people to feed. Anyone there could have been privy to secret conversations and dealings. One of the best ways to hide a secret can often be in plain, albeit crowded sight. I know I wasn't entirely present for the later half, but there are some colourful characters that come to mind. Colourful describes turning Kai to a tea. They were definitely invited and exceptionally difficult to cater for. Brendan Fraser was getting an award for his acting too. Yes, finely sliced ham beef strips, slightly honeyed with a code red jus. I'm sorry? His main meal, we internally called it the return of the mummy. You have to give props to his creativity. You would likely just call it a crunchy mess. Sounds charming, I suppose. I'm getting another vague recollection, if only because I'm sure it was the longest award name of the night. Todd Howard. That's why there's an award for Game of the Sweep that is forced to include his god in game title name, and it is beyond me. Rory's I've seen to like up a little, though you have to admit the foremost video game designer of Repeton doesn't usually turn people's head. He just sort of exists. It appears when you don't call him, frustrates you to no end, and yet you can't help but feel entirely enamoured by some of his efforts. Oh, actually, I find Skyrim CD for the Television Amico, including the new virtual reality DLC, quite charming. The way they've rendered some of those delicious craftable meals really makes me feel like my work is having an impact, you know. Oh, what's the DLC though, where you can cook more meals? Half-Fire, isn't it? They're really up to the 400th installment already. Feels like just yesterday we were playing Oblivion for the first time, I know. You'll forgive me for not sharing in your recollection. I definitely tried to make an impression with his main meal. Maybe someday he might include it in one of his games for real. Imagine people all over the world being able to bring the true culinary arts to their home. As much as it's nice to get a smile from the slightly agitated chef, you really want to steer this conversation away from video games. You're not about to be sucked back in by Todd's lies. Moving on, we should get back to some of the more internal awards maybe, those with closer ties to corporate. You're right, my apologies. His face seems to slowly return to the forward brow of someone deep in thought. You recall some of the corporate trolls at your table, but through distant conversations and faces without clear names. Being in the dregs of corporate as long as you have, there are so many people who are familiar in features but you never really got to know. I do recall a couple of other attendees from their interactions with my staff. Barrere was particularly specific about his cocoa. He had me do a stupid song and dance number before he considered it acceptable for consumption, and I don't mean figuratively. Barrere, Sabine you believe, one of the junior designers for corporate. Certainly not the first time you've heard his name, and certainly not the first time you've heard someone complaining about his antics. And I believe a Lydian was receiving an award related to engineering or something to that effect. He was there with someone too. They were both exceedingly excited about the broth grain noodle soup. They even asked for the recipe. Rory seems very interested in the blade of his knife, his eyes attempting to bore holes through the steel. It's just ramen. Lydian certainly rings a bell. You can feel the information manifesting in your mind, a series of numbered points begging to be joined to form some semblance of a picture, maybe a purr beast. Never mind, that's something you can catch up on later. You feel it'd be good to break Rory out of his subconscious spaghetti suffering though. Why are the dogs barking again? There is at least one attendee I can vouch for, regrettably. There's someone probably lurking outside my house now. There always is. I mean, there probably always isn't, but I mean, people use the path in front of my house as like a thoroughfare, you know. It's fine. There is at least one attendee I can vouch for, regrettably. Yeshin, my kismesis, the mind mist that can't be dismissed. Careful, any more assonance and you'll be diced up for a slitherbeast stew. You run a hand through your hair, exhaling perhaps your longest breath yet. Honestly, just throw me in. I'm meant to be on top of this shit, but every time she all but appears, it's addictive. She's addictive. He's like, I don't fucking care. The chef responds with a solemn nod, and you can see an all too familiar flame in his eyes. When you find that person that gets under your skin like no one else, you so often crave seconds. Just like his slimy, greasy, done-in-minutes food, absolutely focused on doing it quick, not right. You quickly respond to get this conversation back on track. Maybe at least one path in this triad will be resolved without resorting to knife-on-wood violence. I'd rather not let her stake her claim in my mind much further this conversation. She was there, I'm sure I could always just chase up a full guest list if I get stuck. We've yet to talk about your end. Do you feel your team was trustworthy? Rory twitches a finger on the hilt of his knife. You can always feel the way his teeth grit. I always handpicked my team, Regulator. They were of the best quality. I kept eyes on them throughout most of the night and could assure you the kitchen was a well-oiled, mechanised unit. Sometimes they pushed my buttons, but I know the truth came out in the meals they crafted. Well, that settles that. You decide not to press the easily startled chef with a large kitchen knife. Lots to follow up on, you think? Lots to think about, you follow up. Do you dare allow yourself a brief moment of positivity? It's early days on these new leads, but they seem to open up a whole tree's worth of branching opportunities, and hopefully a few of those branches will bear fruit. You have a clearer direction and some ideas for who to turn to next, some characters to examine, the clarification of a conversation that seems almost too good to be true. You extend a hand, thanking Roru for clearing some of the pitch-induced fog of the night. He hesitates for a moment before returning the gesture. After you pull your hand back, the culinary creator pauses for a moment, eyes drifting to check the time once more. Regulator, if I may now ask for a moment of your time, please wait here. A bold request, but one you feel obliged to accept. After all, it seems only fair. You wave him away, leaving him to his devices. Turning back to face the back wall of the space, you call out Eves with your voice. You begin to make a note of the important facts, details, and new possible suspects. A report still needs to be filed. A record needs to be kept. If not for Hamifi or Sestro anymore, then for the future, for those who need to see it, for those who deserve the truth. One particular file comes into view, hers. You find yourself pausing, staring at the cover of the file as if it would open itself and force you to peruse its contents. Before you can choose to delve into the details of your pitch affections information, Roru returns and saves you from decision. Go ahead, I figured you might enjoy it. He pushes forward a small box wrapped in an olive fabric sheet. While it's no violin case, you're a little more hesitant than usual to accept foreign, strange gifts. Even if the person they're from is a somewhat more credible individual than a mystery voice behind a screen. And this is? Dinner, I suggest. Keep up that appetite for justice, Regulator Yapara. I think we may all be counting on you for this one. The fabric comes away smoothly at a tug of a small knot made in the corner. The box inside is a surprising teal, and you find a grin spreading across your face that's joined by the slight cheerful laugh of a certain culinarian. Placing it down on one of the cooking benches, you examine the box's contents. Each small component of the box is filled with those same portion meals from your main course meal, prepared with the same tender care to your palate as it had been on the awards night. Oh, that's so sweet of him. You take a moment to breathe a deep whiff of the delicious spices before reboxing and rewrapping the food container. You didn't have to do this, Roru, but thank you. I look forward to enjoying it. It's my pleasure, really, and please remember, Regulator, a watched pot should stay out of the kitchen. Keep yourself safe out there. The soft chime of the bell signals your leave from the humble cooking school. Though class may be over, you've got a hell of a lot of extracurricular work to catch up on. Time to hit the books. Oh, that's nice. I really enjoyed that. I really love characters who are like cooks. Anyway, I feel like I should, update my laptop before going on to the next route, so I'll see y'all later.